Thanks everyone for joining us this morning. Today's session, we're going to cover obviously making it easy and a look at how third-party partnerships can support digital transformation. But just to give you a bit of a background on what this is about, PayPoint went out to the housing sector over a period of about 2.5 years now, where we've met with lots of different organisations, and we've basically just gleaned a load of feedback from you in terms of what you need from a payments provider, but also what you want from a supplier generally. And we made lots of changes to our product, and we added channels and added products. But one of the main bits of feedback that we kept on hearing was that you've got all these great bits of software that you use, CRM systems, housing management systems, lots of different software that all do a really good job within the job that's assigned to them, but then none of them speak to each other. So one of the key strategies that PayPoint's employed is to integrate and partner with some of those organisations that are already supplying you, just to tie things up so everything speaks to each other and hopefully makes your life a lot easier, as per the title. One of the key partnerships is with Voicescape. So the structure of the presentation today will start with me, and I'll talk a bit about what PayPoint's doing, and then I'll hand over to Bill, and he'll impart some of his knowledge and wisdom and some behavioural insights and a bit about how to make things frictionless. So without further ado, just to introduce ourselves. So I'm Vicky Lynch, I'm a business development manager at PayPoint. Today I'm going to talk to you about the sort of more of the technology side, what PayPoint's doing in terms of technology and how we can use technology to make these systems talk to each other and make things a lot more streamlined and frictionless and obviously easier, and what kind of benefits you can glean as an organisation by employing those pieces of technology. And over to Bill.
Thanks, Vicky. Hey, thanks very much for the invite on today. Bill Williams, it says on the screen, that's me, here to sort of share some of the insight really on our product and how we can support the industry. I've also, short notice, one of my colleagues reached out to me following a successful presentation last week and said he'd like to join. So I've got Chris. If you want to say a quick hello, Chris, joining me today.
Hi everyone, I'm Chris Walker. I'm the Behavioural Insights lead at Voicescape. So I'll be helping Bill out with kind of just introducing some of the behavioural insights concepts that he's going to flesh out. Thanks,
Chris, and over to Vicky.
Fantastic, thanks guys. So just a very brief introduction into PayPoint, because I know that a lot of you on the call today will already be using PayPoint in some form or other, but you might not necessarily be aware of our digital payments platform called MultiPay. We built that in about 2015, originally serving markets outside of housing, particularly the energy sector, for example. But there's lots of things we've learned in those sectors that we can bring over to housing and are providing housing associations already, where we can add instant value. Things like real-time transaction data, like with smart meters, we did it 5 or 6 years ago now, where when you process a transaction, you need to feed that real-time data that someone's paid to a smart meter in real time, because people don't want to be waiting 2 days or 3 days for an overnight file in order to get their 15 quid top up or whatever it is so they can put their heating on. So we've been doing that real-time transaction piece for a long time, and it's something we know we can bring over to housing, and we do supply Midland Heart, Hero Group, Selwood, and some housing associations already with some of that technology. In terms of the current situation, and these points are very specific to tying things up and different software that you use, and trying to add some context, I guess, around how the kind of problems you experience because those pieces of software are siloed. So for the housing association, some of the feedback we've got is you've got a lot of flat files, so you're not necessarily employing APIs. You're getting sort of files that you need to download and reformat and upload here, and it might be these are all the transactions that happened yesterday. You need to download that from somewhere, change the formatting, upload it here, upload it there, and it's all it's kind of quite old technology using flat files. And because of that, it creates manual processes when actually technology might be able to shoulder some of that burden for you. It also means at reg change time of year, which I'm sure a lot of you have just gone through, that there's a lot of spreadsheets going around, lots of again, manual processes, lots of calculations, And possibly there's a way that we can improve on that with, again, using technology, using APIs. Typically, digital ambitions are not fully met. Digitalization is where you've got all these great digital products. Digitization is when they actually will streamline and talk to each other and shoulder that burden. And we'll talk a bit about how we can improve on that later. And because you've got lots of different systems, one of my clients told me that they use 37 different bits of software on a daily basis. So you've got different versions of the truth, and you need to go to lots of different pieces of software in order to find that bit of information, just to get a full picture of something. And I guess when you're on a call to a customer and you've got all these windows open, it makes it a bit clunky for you, but also there isn't that single version of the truth. And how does that affect the customer? So with the customer, it could be, yeah, a poor experience on the phone. Perhaps the agent speaking doesn't necessarily have all the information to hand when they're trying to offer support. But also in terms of self-serve as well, you know, if you don't know in real time that somebody has made a payment, for example, whether it's cash or card, your income managers might chase somebody that's already paid. For example, customers have a limited or no access to real-time data and rent statements, so they don't actually know what's owed if there's a repayment plan in place, and they're probably calling the contact center and getting that information from a phone call rather than from any kind of self-serve environment. Poor customer journey for paying online, so it can typically be quite clunky, where you might go onto you know, the organization's website, you want to make a payment, you're taken out to a third-party web page where you need to log in again, so you need to remember another set of login, you need to remember how much you actually owe. There might be another reference number associated with that separate payment site, so it's clunky, and you get what's called drop baskets when you make when there's too many obstacles for actually taking payment. You get drop baskets where people get halfway through the process of making a payment and then they stop because they don't have the information to continue. And obviously having to call in for just simple requests, really, just for sort of data, like, have you received my rent? One of the pieces of feedback we got from one of our housing associations was the biggest hit on their website and the biggest reason people calling into their contact center was looking for rent statement information. So just assurance that you'd actually received their rent or their payment of some kind. And this is the kind of stuff that we can just surface. It's just data we can just surface in a self-serve environment. It shouldn't really take a phone call. So what's the solution to these problems? Actually, it's quite simple. There's a few different bits of technology that you can employ that should solve all of those problems. So in terms of that technology, APIs are used quite a lot in lots of different other sectors, and they're becoming more and more popular. But the way APIs can really help you is because they can tie up different pieces of software. So for example, if you wanted to take a payment within your own website or your own app, we could provide that payment for you seamlessly within your own website, because the APIs are connecting your website to PayPoint, and PayPoint are essentially behind the scenes just taking that payment in a PCI compliant way. But from the customer's perspective, it's entirely seamless. It's entirely within the environment that you provided for them. So it could be your website or their My Account space. And the APIs can do that. So it will link the customer journey with PayPoint to make those payments. Single sign-on as well. So once a customer has logged into their My Account area, they don't need to sign on again in order to make a payment. So if they're in their My Account environment, they want to make a payment, at no point do PayPoint say, oh, you need to sign into PayPoint now. It's all completely seamless. Once they've logged in once, they get a master key essentially in the scenes. They get a master key back behind the scenes. They get a master key that signs them into PayPoint essentially as well. So it's completely seamless. And then we've got our event streamer. So our event streamer takes all transaction data, whether it's direct debit, cash, all card transactions, and streams that data to multiple endpoints. So it might be that it goes directly into your housing management system and then updates that in real time. What that means is you don't have that file download and reformation and uploading that somewhere else. it will stream directly into Northgate or wherever it is directly. But then on the final point, what we can also do with those APIs is actually streamline to that data directly into other organizations. It doesn't have to be billing systems or CRM systems. It can also be other third-party organizations like Voicescape, for example, so that then they can provide you with the data on how many people have paid off the back of pay by links within their campaigns. So some of the benefits you can reap as an organization by implementing some of these pieces of technology. So the API is a single sign-on, the event streamer in yellow there, so we can guarantee to significantly improve the customer journey and the shift to self-serve, because we are making that completely seamless customer journey where they only need to log in once, they can make a payment, and it's all completely seamless, all within the same area, don't need to log in again. All that real-time transaction data across all those channels, we can then do something clever with. We can then stream that into the My Account area. So they've got a real-time rent statement, a real-time balance, which really adds value to those My Account environments. And it makes it a lot more ready, I guess, for self-serve. It provides them with that data that they can then choose to take action against. In orange, a reduction in back office manual tasks. So of course, with the APIs and with the event streamer, we can stream information directly into your housing management system, and it updates in real time. So you don't have that paperwork and those files. Moves everything entirely away from those flat files. But also with things like as I mentioned, rent change time of year, we can shift that to an automated process where if you're updating it in your housing management system that this particular customer needs to pay 5% more, or perhaps there's an arrear that they need to add on to it as well, and we can calculate all of that. That can just get streamed to PayPoint, and we'll process that direct debit. And it's just been fed to us directly by the APIs rather than through file uploads and Excel spreadsheets. It's all just automated. Your integrations into your upstream software, they're in green. So as I mentioned, we can stream wherever you wanted it to go, and it can go to lots of different locations. It can go to Voicescape, it can go to your housing management systems, it can go to your account systems, Sage, those kind of things, if that's where you want it to go. But ultimately, it's the same data going to lots of different locations, so they're all completely tied up, and there's one single source of data and a single source of truth. Automated ways of chasing arrears. So we've got our pay by link service where which sends automated text out to customers to either notify them of a failed direct debit, or perhaps it's just a prompt, your rent's due on Friday. But within that text, there's also a unique payment link that can be pre-populated with their name, reference number, amount owed, and they can make a payment there. But one of the interesting things we're doing to automate the arrears chasing process, and some of the enhancements we're adding to that product is exception management. So if it's a failed direct debit, we can automatically send that link out for you. Or if you have a continuous authorization against a recurring card payment, we can then say, well, let's try a link. If you don't get anything off that, then we can take the money off the payment card, and we'll take on some of that process for you. So automate it, and that's all managed entirely through the API connections you have with PayPoint. Integrated payment channels as well, so to make it easier for customers to pay. So if they typically pay online through a card payment, but they want to pay in cash the next day, we'll just use your tenancy reference number or your internal reference number that you use. You don't have to provide them with a plastic rent card with a 19-digit PAN, which again confuses things. They've got several different reference numbers. So it makes it easy for customers to switch because they've just got essentially one login or one reference number for all different channels. And we can do things like convert that reference number into a barcode, so they can take that down to PayPoint Store, and that's their payment media as a digital barcode rather than having that physical plastic card as well. Across all of these different pieces of technology and across all of these different efficiencies that we can help you with, we do typically save our clients somewhere in the region of sort of 15 to 20% per year. And then in terms of our product and how it fits in, all of these channels, of course, we can provide you with, and Like I said, we can stream them directly into your back office system, or you can use our client portal, which has all of that information in it as well. But how you want to manifest all of these channels is decided by the technology too, and the integration work too. So we could provide you, if you wanted, a white label version of all of these things, but actually, if we were to make the most of the technology and the integrations that we can put in place, we can do some much more exciting things with these channels. So, for example, direct debits through the APIs, we can provide a customer self-serve sign-up page, so sign themselves up to their own direct debit mandates. You can set some of the parameters for that, so to set the amount or set the schedule. But ultimately, they're signing up themselves, so you don't have to go through that sort of 25-minute conversation with a script over the phone in order to sign somebody up for a direct debit. Likewise, with the recurring card payments, we can do a self-serve sign-up page through the APIs where we're connecting to your back office systems, and we're pinging you the information to say, this schedule's been set up, we'll process it on these dates. So you've got all that information. And of course, things like the app and the online, you know, we could just provide you with a white label web page, but the way technology moves and the way that we really add value is using our API, so we can actually entrench payment, seamless payment journeys within your own customer-facing channels. That's all from me. So I'm going to hand over to Bill now and stop sharing my screen, but we'll pick up on Q&A at the end if there's anything specific you want from me.
Thanks very much, Vicky. Thanks everyone for joining again. So I think there's a lot of familiar names on the list. A lot of people have heard of Voicescape, and indeed some happy customers on the call, which is great to see. So Voicescape is a tenant engagement platform which drives transformational efficiency and business results. So we're a software business. We integrate seamlessly with your existing technology stack, and we provide services to help with rent collections, to help gain feedback from your tenants, to help drive compliance and building safety, and to help with well-being checks as well with your tenants overall. But today, mainly we've built the sort of making it easy message around collecting those funds from your customers as and when required. So if I just share the screen, I guess making it easy really, we've looked at the PayPoint service there, and Vicky and I had a chat, and adding the two services together really empowers that collections methodology. So we wanted to sort of bring that up throughout the theme of today to show how we can work together, but talk to you a little bit about a framework in terms of behavioural science as well, and how that all knits together. So over to Chris Walker on our behavioural science team to walk you through them.
Thanks very much, Bill. So thinking about what it means to make a process frictionless, I think what we're really talking about is aligning that process with how people process information and how they behave. So for example, when a process takes too long or it's difficult to understand, the friction is caused by the fact that our brain is having to work really hard, or because we're uncertain about what's going on, and that uncertainty is psychologically uncomfortable. So one of the advantages of viewing a process or practice or services through the behavioral lens is that you can start to distill these organizational problems down to their human behavior components. So to give you a flavor of one of the ways that we do this at Voicescape, I'm going to introduce to you a simple framework grounded in behavioral science that will help you look at how you can create frictionless processes and services, and then by virtue, improve your customer experience. So some of you may be already familiar with this framework. It's called EAST and was created by the government's behavioral insight team. And it remains one of the most widely used behavioral science frameworks. The very basic premise is that if you want to reduce friction, improve customer experience, and encourage particular behaviors, you need to make doing that behavior easy, attractive, social, and timely. So I'll take you through each of these principles in turn, highlighting some of the key drivers that we've observed from our own research. And this will hopefully reinforce the value of breaking down these, the kind of behavioral components of organizational problems, but it will also provide you with the ready-made framework for how you can apply this to your own organization. Bill will then talk you through how we've embedded this practice into the products that we create. So if we jump to the next slide, Bill. So the first principle is easy, which encapsulates the whole principle of this talk. In that the easier something is to do, the more likely we are to do it, which is why making things as frictionless as possible is so important. So this example that we've got here looks at the relationship between how easy tenants considered a process to be and their overall satisfaction with that process. So what we've got is the numbers along the bottom relate to how easy they thought that process was, and then the 100% or the minus 80% relates to the satisfaction. So higher satisfaction in purple and higher dissatisfaction in orange. And we can clearly see the very strong relationship between high overall satisfaction and how easy the process was. And then conversely, the processes that are considered difficult are associated with high levels of dissatisfaction. So if we're thinking about this from an income collection perspective, some easy ways to make the process easier would be to reduce the number of steps that a customer has to take to speak to someone, for example. Make sure that all communication is simple to understand and in language that the customer speaks, so essentially cut out all jargon. So an interesting example of how we tend to process numerical information. Generally, we find it easier to understand natural frequencies compared to percentages. So people are more likely to find 3 and 10 more understandable than 30%. And then similarly, just as Vicky said, making it easy for customers to pay. We don't want to work hard to create an easy, fluid process and then make it difficult to pay by having, say, only one payment method or by making these payment methods complicated. So if we jump to the next slide. So the second principle, attractive, highlights that the fact that we're more likely to carry out a specific behavior when our attention's been drawn towards it and when that behavior is made more appealing. So when we're engaging with customers, we want to make sure that we're doing so in a way that's right for them. In this sense, the engagement becomes much more attractive and much more appealing. So we looked at engagement rates across different methods for one of our clients. So you can see that the engagement method, the engagement was much higher after receiving a voice call relative to the other methods. So what we looked at here was sending a letter and a voice call, sending a voice call, sending a text, or doing nothing in this instance. And as I've just mentioned, that voice call was higher in of itself. Now, what you can see was that this was only improved upon when we sent a letter in addition to the voice call. So the question then becomes, is the additional resource of sending a letter worth that 3% increase in engagement? So what we found for this particular organization was that all things considered, the voice calls on their own proved to be the most efficient method for engagement. And then again, in relation to income collection more generally, we should aim to present written or digital information in visually attractive ways. So we can think about using visuals if we're to explain things. We can use pictures and videos rather than relying on large amounts of text. Similarly, when we're designing intervention messages, we want to try and make that behavior seem more appealing or to make the opposite behavior seem less appealing. If we jump to the next slide. So the third principle is social, which highlights the fact that we're highly influenced by those around us and by particular individuals that we believe are similar to us or that are worth listening to. So here's an example of what I was saying in the last slide in relation to intervention engagements being more attractive, but we also combined this approach with the social principle. So we looked at the impact of messaging aimed to motivate arrears payments. So we compared the standard message to a message highlighting the negative impacts of not paying. So that was the enforcement message. So we were saying that making a payment seem more attractive by using this enforcement message. But we also included a message that highlighted that most people pay their rent on time. So what this attempts to do is to reinforce that non-payment is not typical and leverage the fact that we're influenced by those around us to increase payment. In this instance, both the enforcement and the social norms messages outperformed the standard message and increased the number of customers who paid. So social norms approaches are particularly useful when customers might have skewed perceptions about how common certain behaviors are. And we can reinforce this if we make the comparison group someone that the person thinks is similar to them. So for example, highlighting how many people in their neighborhood pay on time. This approach does come with a caveat though, in that it can backfire if you highlight how many people aren't carrying out the behavior you're looking for. So for example, 92% of people paying on time seems like a lot, and that will kind of influence people in terms of if they're not paying, that makes their behavior look like it's not typical. But if we report this as 8% not paying on time, this might actually seem like a big enough number for those who are not paying to think that their not payment isn't that unusual. So be careful not to make an undesirable behavior look common. If we jump to the next slide, Bill. So the final principle is timely, which highlights how important timing is as to whether someone will carry out a behavior. The example here shows the relationship between timeliness for an appointment and customer satisfaction. Now, as you'd expect, not turning up or turning up late is related to overall dissatisfaction, while turning up on time is related to overall satisfaction. But what's interesting here, if we look at the third bar here, is that turning up early, while generally associated with satisfaction, isn't related with high satisfaction. So what we're saying here is that keeping our specific commitment is more important to customer experience than being quote unquote too timely. And I think this provides a nice example of the fact that sometimes customer experience isn't as straightforward as we think. So it's important to make sure that we're relying on evidence to support our decision making in terms of what's right to do for our processes. And then again, in terms of the applications to income collection more generally, Vicky mentioned about the importance of processes that occur in real time. So it's important to think about making it easy for customers to get in contact with you. Do they have to wait to speak to you, or do they have to go through numerous different staff members before they speak to the person they need to? So how flexible are you in terms of being available for customers to engage when they call back or look to engage with you? And then in terms of things like outbound engagement, we'll look at what the best time of the day to contact people is to get a response. And in terms of making payments, one of the things that's really important is creating plans with customers about how they will pay, because it can really reinforce that payment behavior. One of the things is that what we say and what we do are often quite different, but having a plan in place can really help when it comes to timely behaviors like making regular payments. So speaking of what we say and what we do, I'm going to pass back over to Bill now, who's going to talk to you about what we do in terms of applying this approach to our own product.
Thanks very much, Chris. Really appreciate you stepping in there and walking us through the behavioural science piece. So just wanted to talk to you a little bit about how we build that into our product for collections to help you guys engage with your tenants in the best possible way. And we've looked at aligning that with the principles that Chris has talked about. So to kick off with easy, why is it easy to engage with our product? In terms of for the business, we're driving inbound calls. So we will automate calls out to your tenants, asking them to say, we would really like to support you with your rent. Press 1 to speak with someone now. And for the business, inbound only methodology really drives that engagement for the tenant and with your team, and pushes revenues through phone calls and text messaging services, which we can sync with PayPoint to drive that instant payment, the right person at the right time in the right way. So really, really easy way for the business really to stop all those outbound calls and drive inbound revenue generating calls and efficiency. For the user, so for your teams, this is a seamless integration to the stack you've got now. So nice and straightforward, and the automation that they're going to get out of this to save them. They'll never have to speak to an answering machine again. They'll never have to get the phone slammed on them by someone saying, I don't want to speak to you. It's just the automation is really going to simplify that engagement process. And for the tenant, it means we can call them at the right time with the right phone number that they answered on last time. We can arrange the sync with the text message for PayPoint. And it's just really simple and easy for those guys. If they don't want to speak to someone, they just dead easy hang up to the computer. If they do, they press 1 and connect straight away to an agent at your side. So really, really easy and simple way to engage with your tenants and making collections straightforward. In terms of Chris's next pillar here, to talk about attractive to the business, the mental health and well-being of your teams has got to be paramount, particularly through the year we've just been. So driving that away from outbound calling tenants to inbound warm calls of people wanting to engage, wanting to ask for help. We've seen massive benefits across the UK with the service there. The efficiency, so a lot of landlords are talking to us about growing their property portfolio this year, building new homes as per government guidelines. And this enables you to grow and do that and drive the incremental growth in your business without needing to grow your headcount. So it drives that business efficiency, and it directs payments into your account within 1 day, so that those calls that Vicky talked about earlier. Is my rent being paid? Is it there? If you got it, you can see it straight away in your account the next day, and the tenant can see it immediately on their portals to drive that real business benefit to reduce, again, workload within your teams. For the user, for the teams, Voicescape provided customer success management service for free. So it's like a help desk that we proactively come to you with new ideas and share best practice on how to use the product and the services. We'll come to quarterly business reviews with you, really help you engage with the products. It's really nice and easy and straightforward. So it's quite attractive for the users and the income teams. And they're empowered then to spend longer on the right calls with the right people. We've got some interesting feedback from one of our customers this week to say, one of the things he really struggles with is he knows there's some customers out there that really need some full engagement and some long conversations and an arm around them. What he found difficult in his job is he doesn't have time to do that. Well, it's actually attractive to the users now because we can actually take all that admin away, so you can empower the teams to spend longer on the right calls with the right people, really up for that level of support. And for the tenant, we send, it's your phone number coming through to them. It's your voice of the landlord. They know who you are. And we could look at what's working for them for text messages or phone call cadences. Is it the mobile number or the landline? Is it one person or the other that worked last time? Just make it easy and attractive for those guys to make the payments for you. So really straightforward again. On to the third of the 4 pillars, social. So for the business, full team training and efficiencies that we create drive time for the business to spend on other work. There's lots of other tasks that income teams need to do other than just collecting revenue across the UK. And we're driving that business benefit. We'll actually drive time back into your team to do those things. Quite often when we start to work with landlords, we find that there's people outside the income team booking in to help to support with collections calls. There's overtime being paid, people being distracted, but for the business, we'll move all those challenges away, enable your teams, the right team, to engage with the right people in the right way. And for the user, we find really good feedback. It's easy to remain resilient and to pass on positivity around the business. Actually, I can do my job. I can do it in my core hours. It's been made easy for me. The business has supported me. And I can enjoy speaking with people now. It moves that negativity away from all those sort of calls and answering machines being, not driving the success. And for the tenant, because someone's coming on in a better frame of mind, the mental health and well-being is passed across the tenants from those calls, and they get longer to engage with your teams to create that increased sociality between your teams and your tenants. In terms of timely, the last pillar on the post from Chris. So the business, the impact, is this service needed now? Some customers are telling us yes. We've had a flurry of about 10 or 11 different landlords join the Voicescape platform in the last 2 months. So it feels like the time is now. That's what we're hearing. So if this would benefit your business, please get in touch. To those customers on the call, thank you very much for being customers. Hope you're getting some fantastic results. I'm sure you are. For the users, this will deliver inbound calls for your teams when they want them. So there's flexibility in there. If you want to do power hours, you want to just say we want to take calls between 10 and 12, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. If we want to push certain calls into a call center, if it's low debt or more calls into particular individuals for former tenant arrears, the flexibility is all there to drive the right behavior, again, for your users to make their life easy. And for the tenants, in terms of the timeliness, it's increased flexibility. We're going to leave answer machine messages automatically for you. We're going to give you callback options, the flexibility to do what they want. If they just want to click on the text and pay using a PayPoint link, great, straightforward. If they want to look at calling you back at a time to suit them, or knowing that you're going to try again, because our system will automatically try the next day if appropriate, they know that's going to happen. Those habits form. We just make life really, really easy for the tenant, and we remove that challenge of calling into a call center and you're stuck in a call queue or you're the wrong time, wrong place, to really a nice, straightforward income collection method for your tenant. So I was really talking you through the East principles from Chris and how our product sort of delivers for you guys and your tenants on the back of that. So thank you very much to our colleague Chris. Thanks to PayPoint for inviting us onto the call today, and to HQN for the invitation. Over back to Max, Vicky, and you guys for any questions.
Thanks, Bill. Yeah, if we've got any questions in the room, now's the time. for a bit of Q&A if anyone's got any questions, either on sort of my half or on Bill's half of the presentation, or even a question completely from left field.
I'm just really interested about the whole idea of the inbound calls, and how you engage with residents so that they take those calls, you know, because I never answer my landline anymore, because it's always you've been in an accident or you owe the tax office money. And so people are often reluctant to pick up a call they don't know the number for. I just wondered how you got around that. Thanks.
Sure, Annalisa. Great question. Thank you. So we actually use one of your numbers, or a number that we actually, from our bank, it's a local number. And with our landlords, they usually put that number on their website to say, hey, if you get a call from this number, it's us somewhere. So any tenants Googling a number will see that it's the landlord. And what we do, if the tenant doesn't answer, we'll either leave an answering machine message where appropriate, or if it's a mobile, we can also send an SMS to say, this is a landlord, we're just looking to support you on your rent, we've just called. So the system's positively persistent. We don't call 10 times a day, like you might see some things happening. We will make sure that our customer success team work with you to set the right parameters. So the latest stats we've got is that when we get a caseload off a landlord, we don't get through to 100% of tenants on the call to drive them through to an inbound call. The latest average we had from last month was 74% of people that we call eventually, we get through to by trying them. They get used to the number. It's your message that we deliver the voicemail on and the SMS, and then there's a reverse lookup to say, hey, it really was your landlord calling. So yeah, I think sometimes the first time some people will be, oh, what's that? What's going on? And then the second time, oh, I got a message from that. I know who it is now. So yes, I'll pick it up.
Okay, that's great. So you're saying you got a 74% response rate?
We have indeed, absolutely. And we can demonstrate that on the course for you. We've got some sort of slides, and we can give you a demo of the platform to show you different customers how that works. Yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised myself when I saw that. I think it's because it's, your landlord, you're known to them, they can Google the number. And at the end of the day, they do owe you that rent that you're there looking to collect.
That's great, thank you. I mean, we've got a really good rent collection at the moment, and it's always about getting hold of those few people. So it's quite interesting. I'll take the discussion further forward. Thanks.
Good to hear. Thanks, Annalise. I can show you a slide, actually, if you like, to show you the impact it has if we've got a couple of moments. Here we go, just to share screen. Tansy, are you still on the call?
Hello.
Hey, Tansy. Is it okay if I show you a slide?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Brilliant. There we go. Those that can see that, this is Tansy on the call. We actually tracked what happened after we installed the Voicescape service. Just to give you an idea, was it about September time, Tansy, that the product went live last year?
Yeah, so we waited until the APA situation resolved itself, because we didn't want that to blur any sort of successes. So we waited until all of our APAs were on the same day, and then we went live in September. So that first dip in August was due to the APAs, and then from September onwards, that was attributed to delivery of this.
Cool. I think you've had a successful month as well in April. So far, all going well?
Yeah, we've gone down again, so that's good.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Just to give you an idea, guys, of the impacts that we can make immediate difference. I think it's 433k difference, but of course, it's arrested the curve as well.
Bill, it's Catherine from YHG.
Hi, Catherine.
You okay?
Hey, good to hear from you. Yes, very well. Thanks you.
Yeah, good, thanks. I'm assuming you have teams that work that use Voicescape that are still operating in patches. I'm just interested to learn how that works, really, because people get very precious about their accounts, and I think in the current climate, we don't have any grand plans to move away from that. We need to know who our customers are and work closely with them. So I'm just a bit interested in how you get that to work operationally.
Absolutely, Catherine. Yeah, so what we do is we can set a different number up per agent. So the customer success team we have as part of the discovery we do before sort of going down the sales path with you is to understand how your patches work, who does what, and then we'll set the calls up to the inbound calls to direct them to the right agent. So if there's a patch and you've got 200 people on that patch and maybe there's 40 you want to get involved in, and that week we'll direct those 40 calls one by one to that one agent for you. We'll make sure we never deliver more than one agent, and one call per agent, and it's at the right time of day as well. We find it, speaking with landlords, what they've done is they've been able to rearrange their agents so that they have a focus time, maybe a Monday and Tuesday to collect rent, rather than doing it throughout the week randomly when they can, sort of cherry picking, I know Mrs. Jones, I'll call her, that'll be easily win. It kind of forces that structure to the week so they can drive through these calls early on in the week and then free up the rest of the week to engage in different ways with the tenants and the business.
Great, thank you.
We also found as well, if you had sort of a vacancy in the team, if there's a patch unmanaged, it enabled us to ask the rest of the team to share that workload automatically by pushing those calls into others to help out, or if there's someone on holiday, or on a secondment, it gave that a little bit of flexibility. Catherine.
Hi, my name's Debbie. I'm from Setor. Just wanted to ask a question. So I'm assuming a lot of organisations use this based on demand rather than patches, as the lady just mentioned.
That's right, Debbie. Hi. Yes.
Hi.
Yes, absolutely. So we take a sort of we can either integrate seamlessly with your existing management system, or we can just take a caseload file off you overnight each night by secure file transfer protocol, and we'll just put a tag on that file or that system to say, how would you like us to activate? What would you like us to do? And we'll run that automatically to make it best practice for you. So sometimes calls will just go into a call center and rotate through people. It might be a call group for people working from home, or you might say, actually, if it's over X amount of days or over X amount of value, we actually want to treat it slightly different, so we'll push the calls in a different way. So we'll work with you to understand how you'd like that to happen. Does that?
And so what about customers who use RentSense?
Brilliant. So I'd say about half our customers, of our landlords, have RentSense.
Right.
We actually work quite closely with those guys, and we take the caseload from RentSense, pump it into our system. We'll tag it to say any tags that you want to say, actually, we want to treat it in a certain way, or we just want all the calls to go to this team or this person.
Right.
And off we go. So yeah, it works really, really well with RentSense. They've built an integration with us. We're actually with their CEO on Thursday next week. That integration, so we can seamlessly take the data from RentSense, or some customers prefer to send us the overnight file automatically each night.
Thank you.
Great system, by the way, here, RentSense.
Yes, it's working well for us anyway.
Good to hear. So just for any other customers with any different technology stack out there, whether you have RentSense or just any of the traditional services or Orchard Analytics, we just take data from them all in the right way, manipulate that data to give it the right format for our systems in the background. So all the IT work is done by us. So your IT teams don't really need to get involved. Usually they'll just give us a quick tick for safety and security as part of the process of onboarding. So it might be an hour or two worth of checks for those guys, and then off you go with a brand new platform that your agents never have to again, or your team doesn't have to again listen to gift gaff voicemails or prepare for a call for 5 or 10 minutes, ring someone and they're not available. All that goes away, and we deliver that inbound call with a whisper prompt to say, it's Mrs. Jones, or here's a reference number for your agent. So they can type it in and they can bring up the file right away and say, hello, how can I help you today?
It's a good point, actually, Bill, which is that you're taking away that development work. You're tying up with the organization's other supplier to make sure you're taking away that work, and you can both bring that product back to them and say, look, we've done this integration work now, and it now works better. We can add all this extra value without you having to do any sort of project management or reserve IT resource and all that sort of stuff. So hopefully we can do that with our partnership as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you want to go down the PayPoint path, a couple of our customers are moving that direction right away as soon as we announce a partnership. It just makes things so much easier for a tenant to get a text message, to click on it, opens up a payment gateway with the right payment details on, single sign-on. It's just really easy, and then you get the money straight away. So really excited by the partnership, Vicky.
Likewise.
Any other questions I can answer at all?
Normally, when people are talking about these kinds of systems, they're normally sort of, I suppose, set out figures or cost savings or something that's entices businesses to start thinking seriously about whether this adds value or not.
Yep.
So have you got some data or some information you might share that supports some of that?
We have indeed, Debbie, yes. If it's okay to get sort of 2-minute call with you at some stage just to understand what your numbers are, so I can personalize them a little bit, I'd happily do that for you. What we normally do is support our customers with a business case. We've got some sort of standard templates we can fill in some bits and bobs.
So you do that part of it as well, yeah?
Absolutely, 100%.
Okay,
Yeah,
cool. That's good.
It's keen for us. An American term for I used to work in the US, objectives and key results. So we basically set what your objectives are and the key results on the back of it. And so we take that from pre-sale to once you've installed it to deliver, and we meet quarterly to make sure we're on track with you to deliver and over-deliver. One of the things in terms of the business case that some of the customers have been interested in recently is around the former tenant arrears as well. Quite often, that's kind of a bit of a pot in the background that's not focused on. We can run our system automatically on that and start to deliver those former tenant arrears calls into your business. And quite often, just the amount of money we collect off that more than pays for our services for your current tenant arrears on its own. So it's definitely great to look at a business case for you, Debbie.
If anybody wants to talk about what PayPoint are doing and some of the things that I discussed in the sort of first half of the presentation, I'll put my email address just in the chat. And so if anyone wants to talk to me directly, we can put a few minutes in the diary and just chat through how we can help with you guys. I'm sure Bill will do the same.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I've dropped my email in there for you, Vicky. So
thanks, Debbie. Perfect.
Thank you everyone for the time this morning. Thank you, Vicky, for the invite. Thanks to Max and team for setting up a successful morning. Hope you enjoyed an hour out of your day.